Commander ZYX pressed her scale palm against the observation deck's viewport, watching Earth rotate slowly beneath their cloaked vessel. The third planet from the system's yellow star appeared deceptively peaceful, blue ocean swirling with white clouds, green and brown continents dotted with tiny lights that sparkled like scattered gems in the darkness. "Initial scans are complete, Commander," reported her second-in-command, Lieutenant Cav. His 4 eyes blinked in sequence as he reviewed the holographic display. Population approximately 8 billion. Primary species designation, human. Technology level appears primitive. They barely achieved nuclear fusion and have only sent a few crude vessels beyond their atmosphere. ZYX nodded, her crest of bioluminescent spines flickering with satisfaction. After 3 centuries of expansion, the Kethran Empire had perfected the art of planetary assessment. Find a world, study its dominant species, determine if they pose any potential threat to Kethran interests, then either subjugate or eliminate them. It was a process that repeated across nearly 1,000 worlds. Deploy the infiltration team, she commanded. Standard reconnaissance protocol. I want comprehensive reports on their military capabilities, social structures, and technological development within 60 standard cycles. The team of 5 elite Kethran operatives materialized in the teleportation chamber, their bioadaptive camouflage already shifting their reptilian features to mimic human appearance. Each possessed decades of experience infiltrating alien civilizations, their neural implants loaded with extensive data on human languages, customs, and behavior patterns. Agent Thex, the team leader, felt his skin ripple and change as the transformation completed. Where scales had been, smooth pink flesh emerged. His elongated skull compressed into a more rounded shape, and his 4 eyes merged into 2. The sensation was deeply uncomfortable, but necessary for the mission. "Remember," he addressed his team through their neural link, "humans are classified as a Class C species. Low intelligence, short lifespans, prone to emotional decision-making. There should be routine surveillance. Blend in, observe, report back. The Empire expects complete assessment data within standard timeframes." Agent Nira, now disguised as a young human female, studied her reflection in the polished metal wall. Their technology is laughably primitive. Chemical rockets, combustion engines, electrical grids powered by burning fossil fuels. How did such a backward species even achieve planetary dominance? "Probably through sheer reproductive excess," suggested Agent Moore, his voice now carrying a distinctly human accent. "The data indicates they breed rapidly and consume resources at an alarming rate. Classic signs of an unintelligent species." The team dispersed across Earth's surface, materializing in different major population centers. Thex found himself in a place humans called New York City, his enhanced senses immediately overwhelmed by the cacophony of sounds, smells, and electromagnetic signals emanating from the urban environment. He'd studied the preliminary data, but experiencing human civilization firsthand was jarring. Massive structures of steel and glass stretched toward the sky, their surfaces gleaming in the sunlight. Thousands of humans moved through the streets below like colonies of industrious insects, each focused on some incomprehensible task. But it was the noise that struck him most profoundly. Not just the mechanical sounds of their primitive vehicles and construction equipment, but something else, a constant underlying hum of activity that seemed to emanate from the very foundations of their society. Humans were building something, constantly building. Through his neural link, reports began streaming in from his fellow agents. Nira had positioned herself in Silicon Valley, observing their primitive computational facilities. Moore had infiltrated their military installations, studying their crude weapon systems. Agent Cole was monitoring their scientific institutions, while Agent Yex investigated their industrial capabilities. "Initial observations confirm our preliminary assessment," Nira reported. "Their computing technology is based on silicon semiconductors, incredibly inefficient compared to our bioneural networks. They are still using binary code, for the sake of the void. It's like watching children play with wooden blocks." Thex nodded, but something nagged at him as he watched the humans hurrying past. There was an intensity to their movements, a purposefulness that seemed almost driven. He activated his enhanced hearing, focusing on fragments of conversation as humans passed. "Need to finish the prototype by Friday or we'll miss the launch window." Told engineering we need a 20% efficiency increase, and they're already working on it. Impossible is just another word for something we haven't figured out yet. That last phrase stopped him cold. He replayed it in his memory, analyzing the humans' tone, conviction in their voice. In Kethran culture, impossibility was accepted as natural law. If something couldn't be done, you found alternative approaches. But these humans seemed to view impossibility as a challenge. Throughout the day, Thex observed human behavior with growing confusion. They worked with a frantic energy that seemed almost neurotic. Construction crews labored on buildings that appeared to serve no obvious purpose beyond being taller than previous buildings. Scientists conducted experiments that pushed the boundaries of their primitive understanding. Engineers designed machines that improved upon machines that had themselves been improvements. Most disturbing was their reaction to failure. When Kethran encountered insurmountable obstacles, they adapted by finding different paths. But humans responded to failure with what could only be described as rage, not the destructive fury of a cornered predator, but a cold, calculating anger that immediately began seeking ways to overcome whatever had stopped them. As night fell over the human city, Thex perched on a rooftop overlooking the sprawling metropolis. The lights below stretched to the horizon in every direction, a glittering testament to billions of individual human efforts. Each light represented someone building something, creating something, pushing something forward. He opened his communicator to file his initial report, but hesitated. The preliminary data suggested humans were primitive, emotional, short-sighted. But what he'd observed today painted a different picture entirely. These weren't the behaviors of a simple species content with survival. These were the actions of a civilization that had declared war on the very concept of limitation itself. His neural implant chimed with an incoming message from Agent Cole, stationed at something humans called a MIT. The terror in his colleague's mental transmission made Thex's blood run cold. "Commander," Cole's voice carried a tremor that violated every protocol of Kethran military discipline. "You need to see what they are building here. This isn't primitive technology. This is something else entirely. Something that violates everything we know about technological development curves." Thex stared out at the human city, watching millions of lights twinkle like stars brought down to Earth, and felt the first stirrings of a fear he'd never experienced in 3 decades of military service. These humans weren't just building things. They were building towards something. And whatever that something was, it was advancing at a speed that made his enhanced Kethran intellect struggle to comprehend the implications. Agent Cole's hands trembled as he transmitted the data stream from the human research facility. Through the neural link, his fellow operatives experienced his memories directly, walking through laboratories where humans manipulated matter at the atomic level, witnessed experimental chambers where they bent space-time itself, observed computational systems that exceeded Kethran capabilities despite being built from supposedly primitive components. "This is impossible." Agent Neera's mental voice carried a sharp edge of panic. Their theoretical foundations shouldn't support these developments. According to our models, they should be centuries away from manipulating quantum fields. Thex studied the data flowing through his consciousness, his enhanced analytical capabilities struggling to process what he was seeing. In one laboratory, human scientists had created microscopic machines. They called them nanobots that could repair cellular damage and enhance biological functions. In another, researchers were successfully testing faster-than-light communication, using quantum entanglement principles that the Kethran Empire had taken millennia to understand. But most disturbing was their approach to development. Kethran science advanced through careful, methodical research over extended periods. Progress was measured in decades or centuries. These humans seemed to iterate through technological generations within spans that barely registered on Kethran timescales. "I've been monitoring their global communications network," reported Agent Moore from his position inside a military installation. "They call it the Internet. In the time I've been observing, they've shared more scientific data than the Kethran Empire processes in a full cycle. They are collaborating across their entire planet simultaneously." Thex felt his bioluminescent spines dim with anxiety. Collaboration was antithetical to proper development. Advanced species understood that knowledge should be carefully controlled, distributed only to those proven worthy of wielding it. But these humans scattered their discoveries like seeds in the wind, allowing anyone with access to their network to build upon previous work. The results were terrifying. Agent Yex, embedded within their industrial sector, transmitted images of manufacturing facilities that operated with precision rivaling Kethran automated systems. But these weren't operated by artificial intelligence or biomechanical constructs. They were run by humans themselves, supported by machines they'd built to enhance their natural capabilities. Watch this. Yex's mental voice carried a note of horrified fascination. Through his enhanced vision, the team observed a human factory where robotic arms assembled electronic components with microscopic precision. But the robots weren't autonomous. They responded to human operators who controlled them through neural interfaces the humans had developed in the past few years. They're merging with their technology. Nira observed, her mental tone hollow. Not through biological evolution like we did, but through conscious design. They are choosing to enhance themselves. Thex accessed a global data stream, pulling information about human technological development over recent decades. What he found defied every principle of civilizational advancement the Kethran Empire had established across 1,000 conquered worlds. In less than a single Kethran generation, humans had gone from analog mechanical computers to digital systems capable of processing information at quantum speeds. They'd mapped their own genetic code and were actively modifying it. They'd built machines capable of precision manufacturing at the molecular level. They created artificial intelligence systems that could solve problems their own minds couldn't comprehend. And they showed no signs of slowing down. There's something else. Agent Cole transmitted from the research facility. I've been monitoring their theoretical physics discussions. They are not just building current technology. They are planning developments that won't be implemented for decades. They are designing the tools they'll use to build the tools they'll need for projects they haven't even begun. Thex reviewed the data Cole had intercepted. Human scientists were seriously discussing projects that made his enhanced intellect real. Machines capable of manipulating fundamental forces of nature, computers that operated using the quantum mechanics of parallel universes, transportation systems that folded space itself to eliminate distance. Most impossibly, they weren't treating these as fantasy or speculation. They were creating detailed engineering plans, identifying specific technological prerequisites, establishing timelines for development. They spoke of impossibly advanced projects with the same casual confidence other species reserve for routine tasks. Commander ZYX needs to see this immediately, Thex decided, but as he prepared to transmit their findings to the orbiting vessel, Agent Moore's panicked mental scream cut through the neural link. They know we're here. The transmission came from deep within a human military facility, accompanied by security camera footage that made every member of the infiltration team freeze in terror. Human soldiers were examining what appeared to be fragments of Kethran surveillance equipment, devices that should have been completely undetectable by primitive human technology. How is this possible? Nira's mental voice barely maintained coherence. Our camouflage operates on principles they haven't discovered. Our technology is based on sciences they don't understand. But the evidence was undeniable. Through Moore's enhanced vision, they watched human technicians analyzing Kethran bioadaptive materials with instruments that could identify alien cellular structures. Scientists examined energy signatures from Kethran equipment using detection methods that rivaled the Empire's own counterintelligence capabilities. Worse, the humans weren't just detecting alien presence, they were reverse engineering it. They've been tracking us since we arrived. Moore transmitted, his mental voice thick with disbelief. Not just my team, all of us. They have surveillance networks monitoring for exactly the type of infiltration we're conducting. They built systems specifically designed to detect species like us. Thex felt his enhanced cardiovascular system accelerate beyond safe parameters. The implications were staggering. Either humans had encountered other alien species before, which contradicted all Kethran intelligence, or they had developed counter-infiltration technology purely through theoretical anticipation of alien contact. Both possibilities were equally terrifying. Through the neural link, he experienced Moore's memories of examining human military installations. What he'd initially dismissed as primitive weapon systems were revealed to be far more sophisticated. Humans had developed energy weapons using principles they'd discovered only recently. Their defensive systems incorporated technologies that shouldn't have been possible with their theoretical foundation. And they were building everything with the same relentless intensity Thex had observed in their civilian populations. We need to extract immediately, Nira transmitted. This species is far more advanced than our preliminary assessment indicated. We're compromised and outmatched. But even as the words formed in her mental voice, Thex realized a truly horrifying truth. They weren't just outmatched by human technology, they were outmatched by human nature itself. These beings didn't accept limitations. They encountered impossibility and immediately began developing methods to overcome it. They faced challenges that should have stopped their progress for centuries, and instead turned those challenges into motivation for even more ambitious projects. No, Thex transmitted to his team, his enhanced analytical capabilities finally grasping the full scope of what they discovered. We're not just compromised. We're witnessing something that threatens the fundamental assumptions of Kethran civilization. Through the neural link, his team experiences realization. Humans weren't building random technology or advancing through normal civilizational development. They were systematically eliminating every limitation they encountered, treating impossibility as nothing more than a temporary inconvenience. And if they continued at their current rate of advancement, they would soon possess capabilities that exceeded even the Kethran Empire's most advanced technologies. The emergency council aboard the Kethran vessel convened in the ship's most secure chamber, sealed against all forms of surveillance. Commander ZYX's bioluminescent spine flickered erratically as she processed the infiltration team's reports, her enhanced neural pathways struggling to accept data that contradicted centuries of established military doctrine. "You're telling me," she said slowly, her voice carrying the dangerous calm that preceded Kethran military executions, "that a species we classified as primitive has not only detected our most advanced infiltration operatives, but has been tracking them since insertion." Agent Thex stood at attention despite his exhaustion, his bioadaptive camouflage still partially active from his hasty extraction. "Confirmed, Commander. But that's not the most significant threat we've identified." Lieutenant Cav's 4 eyes blinked in rapid succession as he reviewed the transmitted data. "Commander, these reports suggest technological capabilities that exceed our own in multiple categories. This contradicts everything we know about developmental progression curves." ZYX activated the chamber's central holographic display, and the collected human technologies appeared in 3-dimensional detail. Nanoscale manufacturing systems, quantum computational networks, genetic modification protocols, energy weapons based on principles the Kethran Empire had only theorized about. Each innovation represented decades of research compressed into timeframes that violated every natural law of civilizational advancement. "How is this possible?" she demanded. "Our xenobiological experts classified humans as emotionally driven, short-lived, and prone to destructive conflicts. Species with these characteristics don't achieve rapid technological advancement." Agent Nira, still trembling from her extraction, stepped forward. "Commander, I believe our classification protocols are fundamentally flawed when applied to this species. Humans don't advance despite their emotional nature and short lifespans. They advance because of them." The observation chamber fell silent except for the soft hum of the ship's biomechanical systems. ZYX's spines dimmed as she considered the implications. "Explain." Nira activated her personal data projector, displaying behavioral analysis from her time observing human research facilities. "Kethran development is methodical because we live for millennia. We have time to perfect each advancement before moving to the next. Humans know they have perhaps 70 years of productive life, so they approach innovation with desperate urgency." The holographic display showed human scientists working 18-hour cycles, collaborating across continents through their global communication network, building upon each other's discoveries with relentless intensity. Where Kethran researchers might spend decades refining a single concept, humans launch parallel research programs, accepting failure as a source of data rather than an endpoint. "But it's more than just urgency," Agent Cole interjected, his mental voice still carrying traces of the terror he'd experienced. "They've weaponized their emotional responses. When they encounter something that should be impossible, they become angry. Not destructively angry, productively angry. They take personal offense at the suggestion that something cannot be done." ZYX reviewed the psychological profiles her team had compiled. Standard Kethran behavior when faced with insurmountable obstacles involved adaptation, finding alternative approaches, or accepting limitations. But human psychological responses showed a pattern of what could only be described as aggressive problem-solving. When told something was impossible, humans immediately began designing methods to make it possible. When they reached the limits of their current understanding, they expanded their understanding. When their technology proved insufficient, they built better technology. Show me their space program. ZYX commanded. The holographic display shifted to show human efforts to leave their planetary surface. According to Kethrin analysis, their chemical rocket technology was laughably primitive, inefficient, dangerous, and limited in scope. But as the data unfolded, ZYX watched in growing horror as humans use their primitive technology not as an endpoint, but as a stepping stone. Within decades of achieving basic orbital flight, they had established permanent habitats beyond their atmosphere. They were mining asteroids for rare materials. They had sent robotic probes to every major celestial body in their solar system, and were planning crewed missions to their planetary neighbor. Most disturbing, they were already designing the next generation of propulsion systems, fusion rockets, ion drives, and theoretical faster-than-light engines that pushed the boundaries of physics itself. They are not limited by their current capabilities. ZYX realized with growing alarm. They are using current capabilities as foundations for future developments that shouldn't be theoretically possible. Agent Moore transmitted his observation from human military installations. Commander, they've been planning for alien contact since before they achieved spaceflight. Not hoping for peaceful contact, planning for hostile encounters. They developed weapons specifically designed to counter technologies they've never encountered, based purely on theoretical projections of what alien species might possess. The implications hit the assembled Kethrin officers like a physical blow. Humans weren't just advancing randomly, they were systematically preparing for conflicts with species more advanced than themselves. They had identified the Kethrin Empire's infiltration techniques and developed countermeasures before even knowing the Empire existed. How long? ZYX's voice carried a tremor that violated every principle of Kethrin military discipline. At their current rate of advancement, how long before they pose a direct threat to the Empire? Lieutenant Cav's calculations appeared in the holographic display, probability matrices that made the assembled officers' bioluminescent spines dim with fear. Conservative estimates suggest they will achieve interstellar flight capabilities within 2 standard cycles. Aggressive estimates indicate they may develop faster-than-light travel within 1 cycle. But the truly terrifying projection appeared next. Human population growth combined with their technological advancement rate suggested they would be establishing colonies throughout their local galactic region within a handful of cycles. Given their demonstrated pattern of aggressive expansion and their preparation for hostile alien contact, they would inevitably encounter Kethrin territory. Commander, Agent Thex said quietly, "There's something else." During extraction, I monitored their global communication networks. They are already detecting unusual energy signatures in their solar system, signatures from our cloaked vessel. The chamber's emergency lighting activated as the ship's defensive systems responded to ZYX's spike in bioelectrical activity. Through the vessel's external sensors, they could observe Earth rotating peacefully below, its surface dotted with the lights of human civilization. But now those lights took on a sinister significance. Each point of illumination represented not just human habitation, but active research and development. Millions of individual humans, all working toward the singular goal of pushing beyond current limitations. "They know we're here," ZYX stated, though the words felt surreal even as she spoke them. A species we classified as primitive has detected the most advanced stealth technology in the Kethrin Empire. The tactical display showed energy readings from the planet's surface, focus beams scanning their position, electromagnetic signatures that suggested human detection equipment was actively tracking their vessel's location despite its advanced cloaking systems. Weiss, the scanning patterns indicated human technology was already beginning to penetrate their defensive systems, analyzing their ship's construction and identifying potential weaknesses. "Orders, Commander," Lieutenant Cav asked, though his mental voice carried the undertone of an officer who already understood the gravity of their situation. ZYX stared at the tactical display showing human civilization spread across their planet's surface like a glowing infection, each light representing another step toward capabilities that could threaten the very foundations of Kethrin dominance. "Prepare for immediate departure," she commanded. "Full stealth protocols. We need to reach Empire space and deliver this intelligence before." The ship's alarm systems activated, their biomechanical warnings filling the chamber with urgent chemical signals. On the tactical display, energy readings from Earth's surface spiked dramatically as human installations began focusing concentrated scanning beams directly at their position. The humans weren't just detecting them. They were preparing to act. The Catherine vessel's biomechanical hull shuddered as focused energy beams from Earth's surface penetrated their cloaking field, triggering defensive responses that had never been tested against human technology. Commander ZYX gripped the organic command interface, feeling her ship's distress through direct neural connection as human scanning systems dissected their advanced stealth capabilities like a child taking apart a simple toy. "Impossible," Lieutenant Cav whispered, his four eyes fixed on the tactical display showing dozens of energy signatures converging on their position. Their technology shouldn't be able to penetrate Catherine's stealth fields. But the evidence was undeniable. Across Earth's surface, installations that hadn't existed during their initial reconnaissance were powering up with energy outputs that rivaled Catherine military systems. Radio telescopes repositioned themselves with mechanical precision, their massive dishes focusing on the exact coordinates of the cloaked vessel. Satellite networks that had appeared to be primitive communication systems revealed themselves as components of a planetary defense grid. How long had they been preparing for this? ZYX demanded, though she already feared the answer. Agent Thex, still connected to the ship's intelligence systems, accessed the data his team had gathered during their infiltration. "Commander, based on construction timelines and development patterns, they've been building these capabilities for decades, since before they achieved reliable spaceflight." The implications were staggering. Humans had been systematically preparing for alien contact while publicly maintaining the pretense of primitive technology. Every major technological advancement had included military applications specifically designed to counter threats they had never encountered. Their space program wasn't just about exploration. It was about establishing defensive positions beyond their atmosphere. Their satellite networks weren't just for communication. There were surveillance systems monitoring their entire solar system for signs of alien activity. Their particle accelerators and fusion research weren't just scientific endeavors. They were weapons development programs designed to counter advanced alien technology. "They've been watching us since we arrived," Agent Nero realized, her mental voice hollow with the understanding. "Everything we observed, every facility we infiltrated, they wanted us to see it. They were studying our reactions, learning about our capabilities." On the tactical display, new contact appeared throughout Earth's solar system. What their initial scans had dismissed as space debris resolved into camouflaged installations, defense platforms positioned as strategic points, mining operations on asteroids that doubled as military outposts, automated systems that had been silently mapping every energy signature in their local space. The humans hadn't just detected the Catherine infiltration. They had been preparing for exactly this type of encounter for generations. Movement on the surface reported the ship's sensor array through direct neural interface. On Earth below, massive installations were emerging from underground concealment, their surfaces gleaming with a metallic sheen of advanced materials. Launch facilities activated across multiple continents simultaneously, their targeting systems focusing on the Catherine vessel's position with mechanical precision. Lieutenant Cav's calculations flowed through the shared consciousness of the bridge crew, probability matrices that painted a picture of comprehensive strategic preparation. "Commander, they're not responding to our presence. They're implementing a predetermined plan. This is a coordinated planetary defense response." ZYX felt her bioluminescent spines dim as the full scope of human deception became clear. The species they had classified as primitive had been operating a civilization-wide intelligence operation, presenting themselves as technologically inferior while secretly developing capabilities specifically designed to counter threats like the Catherine Empire. Every human behavior that had seemed random or emotional now revealed itself as part of a larger strategic framework. Their tendency to share scientific data globally wasn't careless. It was a method of accelerating planetary defense development. Their aggressive approach to impossible challenges wasn't primitive. It was a systematic method of eliminating potential vulnerabilities before enemies could exploit them. Their preparation for alien contact wasn't hopeful speculation. It was military planning based on the assumption that any alien species capable of reaching Earth would be hostile. Launch signatures. The ship's tactical systems announced through neural interface. Multiple projectiles ascending from planetary surface. But these weren't the chemical rockets their initial assessment had catalogued. The energy signatures indicated propulsion systems based on principles that matched or exceeded Kethrin technology. Fusion drives, ion propulsion, and electromagnetic acceleration systems launched a coordinated salvo of projectiles toward their position. Worse, the projectiles weren't following ballistic trajectories. They were actively maneuvering, adjusting their courses based on real-time tracking of the Kethrin vessel position. The humans had developed guided weapons capable of engaging targets using technology they theoretically shouldn't understand. Evasive maneuvers, ZYX commanded, but even as the ship's biomechanical systems responded, she realized the futility of conventional tactics. The humans had been studying Kethrin technology during the entire infiltration period. They knew how their ships moved, how their weapons functioned, how their defensive systems operated. The first projectile detonated in a sphere of energy that illuminated the Kethrin vessel despite its cloaking field. Not a primitive chemical explosive, but a contained fusion reaction that bathed their hull in radiation signatures that overwhelmed their stealth systems. "They're using our own technology against us," Agent Thex reported, his enhanced analytical capabilities processing the weapon's energy patterns. That detonation incorporated principles from Kethrin fusion technology, but modified for offensive applications we never considered. More projectiles converged on their position, each representing a different approach to defeating Kethrin defenses. Electromagnetic pulse weapons designed to disrupt their biomechanical systems. Particle beams that targeted the specific frequency signatures of their cloaking field. Kinetic penetrators that moved too fast for their defensive systems to intercept. The humans weren't just defending against alien attack. They were demonstrating technological capabilities that exceeded Kethrin military systems in multiple categories. "Commander," Lieutenant Cav's mental voice carried controlled panic of an officer reporting the impossible. "I'm detecting faster-than-light communication signatures from the planet's surface. They are transmitting data beyond their solar system." ZYX accessed the communication intercepts, her enhanced consciousness struggling to process what she was experiencing. The humans were broadcasting detailed information about the Kethrin vessel, its construction, its capabilities, its technological principles, to destinations throughout the local Galactic region. They weren't just defending against a single Kethrin scout ship. They were sharing intelligence about Kethrin technology with unknown recipients, potentially including other alien species or their own colonies in distant star systems. "How far have their transmissions reached?" she demanded. The ship's navigation systems provided coordinates that made every officer on the bridge freeze in terror. Human faster-than-light communications had reached the outer boundaries of Kethrin space, transmitting detailed intelligence about Empire technology to regions that included military installations, research facilities, and colonial worlds. The humans hadn't just detected and engaged a single infiltration mission. They had potentially compromised the security of the entire Kethrin Empire. "Emergency jump," ZYX commanded, authorizing the ship's most extreme evacuation protocol. "Maximum distance, random vector. We need to reach Empire Command and warn them that." The ship's biomechanical system screamed in digital agony as human weapons systems engaged their hull with precision that suggested intimate knowledge of Kethrin construction principles. Energy beams designed specifically to disrupt organic technology carved through their defenses, while electromagnetic pulses targeted their navigation systems with surgical accuracy. As the Kethrin vessel's emergency jump systems activated, ZYX realized with crystalline clarity that they weren't escaping from a primitive species that had gotten lucky. They were fleeing from a civilization that had systematically prepared for interstellar warfare while maintaining the pretense of technological inferiority. The humans hadn't just been building toward some unknown goal. They had been building toward this moment, the first contact with a hostile alien species, and they had been planning to win from the very beginning. 3 cycles after the failed reconnaissance mission, the Kethrin High Command gathered in the Empire's most secure facility, buried deep within the crystalline core of their capital world. Fleet Admiral Vex stood before the assembled War Council, her bioluminescent spine cycling through patterns that reflected the gravity of intelligence gathered from the surviving infiltration team. "The humans have achieved faster-than-light travel," she announced, her words falling like stones into the chamber's oppressive silence. "Our border monitoring stations detected their first interstellar vessels 2 cycles ahead of our most aggressive projections." The holographic display activated, showing the expanding sphere of human exploration radiating outward from their home system. Unlike the methodical expansion patterns of civilized species, human colonization efforts resembled an explosion, dozens of ships launching simultaneously toward systems throughout the local galactic region, establishing outposts and research stations with the same relentless efficiency they had demonstrated on Earth. "Impossible," declared General KYX, his crest flaring with indignation. Even if they achieved basic faster-than-light capability, they lacked the infrastructure for large-scale interstellar operations. Building a proper colonial fleet requires centuries of preparation. Admiral Vex activated additional data streams, showing human construction projects that defied every principle of civilizational development. They've established automated manufacturing platforms throughout their solar system, mining operations that process asteroids into raw materials, construction facilities that operate continuously without biological oversight, production systems that create new technology as fast as they can design it. The assembled officers watched in stunned silence as the displays showed human industrial capabilities that exceeded anything in Kethran experience. Where the Empire's colonies required decades to establish basic infrastructure, human outposts became self-sufficient manufacturing centers within cycles of their establishment. "They are not colonizing," realized Admiral Nex, her four eyes fixed on the expansion patterns. "They are metastasizing." Each new outpost becomes a production center that launches more ships toward more systems. But the truly terrifying revelation appeared as Admiral Vex accessed the Empire's intelligence networks. Across Kethran space, monitoring stations reported the same phenomenon. Human exploration vessels appearing at the edges of claimed systems, scanning for resources and strategic positions, then disappearing before Imperial fleets could respond. "They are mapping our territory," Admiral Vex stated. "Every military installation, every colonial world, every strategic resource. They know more about the Empire's capabilities than most of our own field commanders." General Zor's biomechanical implants flickered with agitation. "You're describing systematic intelligence gathering on a scale that would require centuries of preparation. How could a species achieve such comprehensive reconnaissance without our detection networks identifying the operation?" The answer appeared on the holographic display as Agent Thex, the sole surviving member of the original infiltration team, entered the chamber. His bioadaptive camouflage was permanently damaged from his exposure to human technology, his natural reptilian features partially visible through the failing disguise. "Because they've been doing it since before we knew they existed," Thex reported, his voice carrying the hollow tone of someone who had witnessed the impossible. "Human exploration didn't begin with faster-than-light travel. They've been sending unmanned probes throughout the galaxy for generations, using sublight vehicles that our detection systems ignored as natural phenomena." The intelligence assessment unfolded like a nightmare. For decades, objects the Empire had catalogued as asteroids or space debris had actually been human reconnaissance probes, silently mapping galactic civilization and identifying potential threats. By the time the Kethran Empire sent its infiltration mission to Earth, humans already possessed detailed intelligence about every major species within 50 light-years of their home system. "They know everything about us," Thex continued, his damaged bioluminescence flickering erratically. "Our military capabilities, our colonial infrastructure, our psychological profiles. They've been studying the Empire longer than we've been aware of their existence." Admiral Vex activated the chamber's most secure communication systems, accessing intelligence from across Kethran space. The reports painted a picture of systematic human activity that violated every assumption about interstellar civilization. Human vessels have been detected throughout the galaxy, not exploring randomly but moving with purpose towards strategic objectives. They were establishing outposts and systems that controlled key shipping routes, positioning installations that could monitor Kethran military movements, creating supply depots in regions that would support extended military operations. Most disturbing, intercepted human communications suggested they weren't operating alone. The faster-than-light transmissions detected during the failed Earth reconnaissance had reached other species, sharing Kethran intelligence with unknown civilizations throughout the local galactic region. "They are building a coalition," Admiral Vex realized, the words carrying implications that made every officer in the chamber recoil. "They are sharing our technological secrets with every species that might oppose the Empire." The holographic display showed the scope of human diplomatic activity, contact with dozens of civilizations, many of which had been conquered by the Kethran Empire generations ago. Former subject worlds were receiving advanced technology, military intelligence, and strategic coordination from human representatives who spoke of liberation and resistance. "This is impossible," General KYX repeated, though his voice lacked conviction. "A single species cannot organize galactic resistance. The logistics alone would require exactly the type of systematic planning and resource allocation that humans have been demonstrating since we first encountered them," Agent Thex interrupted. "They don't think in terms of individual planets or systems. They think in terms of galactic civilization as a single operational theater." The chamber fell into absolute silence as the implications crystallized. The Kethran Empire had spent millennia expanding through methodical conquest, assuming their advanced technology and superior intelligence made them the apex predators of galactic civilization. But humans had identified them as a threat before first contact and had been systematically preparing for interstellar war while the Empire remained ignorant of their existence. "Fleet status report," Admiral Vex commanded, though she already suspected what she would hear. The tactical displays show the Empire's military forces scattered across 1,000 worlds, designed for maintaining control over conquered territories rather than defending against coordinated resistance. Their ships were powerful but slow, built for intimidation rather than rapid response. Their forces were organized for occupation rather than warfare against an enemy that possessed detailed intelligence about their capabilities. Meanwhile, human forces were positioning themselves for maximum strategic advantage. Their ships were smaller but faster, their weapons designed specifically to exploit weaknesses in Kethran technology that they had identified through years of covert observation. Their forces were coordinated across multiple star systems, communicating through faster-than-light networks that could coordinate simultaneous attacks across the entire Empire. "Admiral," reported Captain Dex through the chamber's communication systems, "we're receiving surrender requests from 17 colonial worlds. Local human representatives are offering terms that include technological advancement in exchange for peaceful transition to human administration." The words hit the assembled officers like physical blows. 17 worlds, entire systems with millions of Kethran citizens, were considering abandoning the Empire in favor of human leadership, not through conquest, but through voluntary transition based on promises of technological and social improvement. "What terms are they offering?" General Zor demanded. The intelligence reports painted a picture of systematic human diplomacy that was as terrifying as their military capabilities. They weren't threatening conquered worlds. They were offering partnership, advanced medical technology that could extend lifespans, manufacturing capabilities that could eliminate scarcity, transportation systems that could connect civilizations across galactic distances. Most seductively, they were offering knowledge. The same relentless drive to overcome impossibility that had characterized human development on Earth was being extended to every species willing to work with them. They promised to share the techniques that had allowed them to compress centuries of development into decades, to teach other civilizations how to systematically eliminate limitations and push beyond current capabilities. "They are not conquering the Empire," Agent Thex observed, his damaged voice carrying a note of horrified admiration. "They are making it irrelevant." Admiral Vex accessed the long-range monitoring systems, examining human expansion patterns across the galaxy. What she saw confirmed their worst fears. Human outposts weren't just military installations. They were technological development centers, constantly researching new methods of advancement and sharing discoveries with allied species throughout the galaxy. Every human colony became a node in a growing network of civilizations working toward the same goal that had driven human development since their species achieved consciousness, the systematic elimination of impossibility itself. Fleet Admiral. Captain Nax's transmission carried a controlled panic of a career military officer reporting the unthinkable. Long-range sensors are detecting massive energy signatures moving toward the capital system. Analysis suggests, "Admiral, they are not ships. They are moving structures the size of small moons." The tactical display updated with sensor data that violated every principle of physics the Kethran Empire understood. Approaching their capital system were artificial constructs that dwarfed anything in their experience. Mobile habitats that carried populations in the millions, manufacturing facilities capable of producing entire fleets while in transit, research stations that generated energy outputs comparable to small stars. "How is this possible?" Admiral Vex whispered, though she already knew the answer. While the Kethran Empire had been managing conquered territories, humans had been systematically redefining what was possible. They hadn't just achieved faster-than-light travel. They had built cities that moved faster than light. They hadn't just developed advanced weapons. They had created mobile civilizations capable of supporting interstellar warfare on scales that the Empire couldn't comprehend. Communication incoming, the Chamber's biomechanical systems announced. Source: approaching human constructs. Priority: diplomatic. The holographic display activated, revealing the image of a human female whose appearance had been modified with technological enhancements that rivaled Kethran biomechanical integration. Behind her, visible through transparent barriers, sprawled a city that existed within the hull of a vessel traveling faster than light. Greetings to the leadership of the Kethran Empire. The human spoke, her voice carrying through translation systems that somehow rendered her words in perfect Kethran linguistic patterns. I am Admiral Chen of the Human Expeditionary Force. We're here to discuss the terms of your integration into the Galactic Cooperative. Integration, not conquest, not surrender. Integration into a system that humans have been building since before the Kethran Empire knew they existed. Your infiltration mission to Earth was detected and analyzed, Admiral Chen continued, her tone carrying neither hostility nor condescension, only the matter-of-fact certainty that characterized human problem-solving. We've used the intelligence gathered from that encounter to develop solutions for the conflicts that arise when civilizations with different development philosophies encounter each other. On the display behind her, images appeared of former Kethran colonies now operating under human administration. The world showed no signs of conquest or occupation. Instead, they displayed the unmistakable signs of the same relentless development that had characterized human civilization. Infrastructure that exceeded anything the Empire had built. Populations that were healthier and more prosperous than they had been under Kethran rule. Technological capabilities that grew daily rather than remaining static across generations. We understand that the concept of voluntary technological acceleration may be difficult for your species to comprehend. Admiral Chen continued. Your development philosophy prioritizes stability and control, which has served you well across your expansion. However, we've identified this approach as ultimately self-limiting in the context of galactic civilization. Fleet Admiral Vex felt her bioluminescent spines dim as a human's words penetrated her enhanced consciousness. They weren't threatening the Empire. They were offering to solve the fundamental problem that had limited every galactic civilization throughout history, the tendency to become static once basic technological and social needs were met. What do you want from us? Admiral Vex asked, though she suspected she already knew the answer. Admiral Chen's expression shifted to what translation systems identified as a smile, the human facial expression that indicated satisfaction or anticipation of positive outcomes. We want you to help us build something that has never existed in galactic history, she replied. A civilization that doesn't just expand across space, but systematically expands the boundaries of what's possible. We've identified the next phase of development that lies beyond single-species advancement, and we believe the Kethran Empire's organizational capabilities would be valuable in implementing it. The holographic display shifted to show a vision that made every Kethran officer in the chamber struggle to comprehend its implications. Galactic civilization reorganized not around territorial control, but around collaborative advancement. Thousands of species working together to push beyond limitations that had constrained development for millions of years. Technologies that manipulated fundamental forces of reality, transportation systems that eliminated distance as a meaningful concept, consciousness enhancement that allowed individual beings to comprehend and manipulate cosmic-scale phenomena. Humans hadn't just been building toward interstellar capability. They had been building towards something that transcended the very concept of civilization as it had existed throughout galactic history. And they were offering to teach every species willing to learn how to build it with them. The choice is yours, Admiral Chen concluded. You can attempt to maintain your current territorial empire using methods that we've already proven insufficient for defending against our capabilities. Or you can join us in building something that will make territorial empires irrelevant by making the impossible systematically achievable. As the transmission ended, Fleet Admiral Vex stared at the tactical display showing human constructs approaching the capital system. not as conquerors, but as representatives of a species that had identified the ultimate limitation, impossibility itself, and declared war against it on a galactic scale. For the first time in her centuries of military service, she understood why the infiltration team had fled Earth in terror. They hadn't just encountered a more advanced species. They had encountered a form of consciousness that treated reality itself as merely the current set of problems to be solved, and they were very, very good at solving problems.